Hi, how are you? Give me a second. As usual, I have just a couple things to do, and we will then get rolling. Give me a sec. Let's make sure our tech's working as always. Internet's rocking, and it now shows on LinkedIn that the stream is live. Excellent. There I am. And we will turn that off. We will make sure people are starting to pile in. As we see that, we will put down libations and get started. One sec. You might notice that I upgraded my glassware game. Okay, excellent. I see people piling in. I'm getting rid of that. We are rocking. Hi, how you doing? It's great to see you. Welcome back to my worldwide headquarters right here in Houston, Texas. I don't know where you are, but I got to tell you, a lot of interesting things happening in Texas. Most importantly to me, because I'm feeling selfish today, is it's cold by Houston standards. We're having an awesome winter. We always have awesome winters in Houston. I'm talking like 55, 56 in the morning, 73, 74 during the day. Beautiful. Here's interesting story. The last few streams, I've tried to mention something positive. Hey, Shoemake, how are you, sir? Good to see you. I've tried to mention something positive because, well, I think this might be the year among all years that we could agree the news can be heavy and it's too easy to get into those doom spirals, overthink and overread. And I don't like that. So I've been looking for positive news. Man, we had something delivered that's so beautiful in the last few days for all of us to get excited about. I think most of us are excited about it, and that is vaccine news. So, man, I hope that the awesome possibility of a near-term vaccine or 2 or 3, it looks like, won't make us lax and stop caring about smart behaviors out there relative to this virus. Having said that, it is exciting to think that we might have a science-backed, useful solution in just a few weeks or months. That would be spectacular. And people still give me, I'm so transparent, and yet people still ask me these questions. Hey, where do you stand on this issue? I'll tell you where I stand. I stand with the scientist. I've posted this before. I've talked about it. I've written about it. I don't want to overplay this hand, by the way, but when any issue comes up, most issues, one of my first responses is I stand with the scientists. I'm biased. I was well trained as a social scientist. And when we see people really push science to the back burner or flat out disparage it, it drives me crazy. So my answer is, you know what? I know they're imperfect. I know that science itself is imperfect. I also know it is the single best thing we've got going for us as a species, and I stand with the scientists. All right, lots of stuff to announce. Nothing new. You've heard about it. Live Hard is coming up, as well as an interesting service called Ask Dr. D. I can't wait to tell you more about that. But first, the book. I've been doing streams around topics from the book, as you know, and today will be no different. Lots of folks. Hey, what's happening, Seattle? John, how are you? Wow, Algeria, what's going on? Brian, good to see you. Mehmet, wonderful. Awesome to see these folks showing up, diverse as always. November 27th, day after Turkey Day, I believe, here in the U.S. Live Hard, digital or print, Live Hard will be available. So just go to Amazon, get your copy. I hope many of you will, and then tell your teams about it, because frankly, it's a book I think a whole lot of people, not just in general, but where you work, are going to care about. Now, the last time I wrote a kind of story-based book was Live Hard, and it really was a mix of life and leadership-related things, talking about authenticity and many related interpersonal issues. Loved that. And then this one, which is my second story-based book, really is about creativity, innovation, and change, those related ideas, taking risks, learning from failure, all that related stuff that speaks to you in your career, what it means to grow, because you're not growing unless you're all about creativity, innovation, and change, believe me. And for those of you who are managers and aspire to help your organizations, not just manage your own careers, man, there's few things as interesting or as important as creativity, innovation, and change. So I hope you'll check out Live Hard. Very, very excited. I'll make one more comment, very brief, and then I'll get on to today's topic. This comment is about the holidays. The holidays are coming up. They are a time we have so much fun, we overindulge. I hope that you are slated to have some fun, some peace, some revelry, some relaxation. I also hope you're smart. And I hope that some way smartly, you will get to see family and friends and enjoy that. But all that aside, all that goodness we look forward to aside, I just want to remind you that this year, maybe more than any year in our lives, the holidays will be a time of stress and difficult things for a lot of people to try and process. That might be an understatement. That's kind of like saying 2020 has been a rough year, hasn't it? Yeah, that's an understatement. So as much fun as you're going to try and have, and I hope you do, I want you to also remember everyone else out there struggling a lot more, because there's plenty of them. If there's a way you can reach out and be kind, do it. I'm going to look for my own personal ways to do it. Matter of fact, I'll do it right now. For any of you watching me and following what I do, first, of course, thank you. Second, if you've got a challenge that maybe you're not talking about as publicly as you'd like to, but you wouldn't mind a perspective, or if you have just a difficult thing going on and you'd like a little honest comment, or maybe just someone to listen, reach out, send me a note. I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to listen if that's what you need. I'd love to try and offer a perspective if that's what you need, and it doesn't cost you a dime. I'd be happy to do it. Okay, on with the show. One of my favorite topics. Hey, Yorkshire, UK, Timothy, how are you? LinkedIn user from Mexico. Good to see you. And another Jonathan. There is the awesome Cheryl Dewitt. Thank you for posting the link to that's the pre-sale link for the upcoming Live Hard release. Awesome. Excited. So one of my favorite topics, a lot of people think of me as a leadership relationships type of guy these days, which I love. On the other hand, the thing that got me started years ago was creativity. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but the reason I chose Texas A&M as a place to go get a PhD is, number one, it was highly ranked in management big time for PhDs. And two, I was interested in studying employee creativity. What makes people speak up, take a risk, try to improve things, employee creativity. And I found only a couple schools out of the elite schools where there were multiple professors studying that. And somehow I finagled my way into that program. And it started me thinking eventually to the bigger picture of creativity, innovation, change, learning, failure, all these related things which kind of dominate me now. And go nicely into this bigger discussion of leadership. It's really where I started. And so one of the stories and one of the chapters in the new book is about bureaucracy, because you can't talk about innovation unless you are also going to talk about bureaucracy. Bureaucracy. Here's the funny thing about that topic. Everyone wants to blast it, pure and simple. And it's actually not simplistically evil. There's so much simple thinking in the world right now. I'll just pick on the U.S. There's so much simple thinking in the U.S., black and white thinking. And I always like to say, never, ever believe the simple narrative, because it's rarely accurate. Sometimes it's not really accurate at all. You know, innovation is one of those topics. It really is, because bureaucracy is not evil. It's not necessarily bad. It's often done wrong and unproductive. That's probably pretty accurate and defensible. But there's also an upside to it. So I'll just start before I lamblast it a little bit and say that there is an upside, because there's rules, there's orders, there's safety and coherence that are derived from having committees and rules and ways to do things, methodologies, required protocols, bureaucracy. It gives us a headache. And I know, by the way, firsthand about these headaches. I'll give you this little diatribe quickly. I was once an administrator myself, not just a pontificator from the outside for all of you, but an administrator. That's right. I was the world's worst dean of a business program ever. That's the joke I like. I wasn't the worst ever, but I don't think I was that far from the worst. I didn't love it. I did some good things. I had some wins, made some money, educated some people for the university. And I also had some big failures, all of which I have no time to go through right now. But what I learned during those ups and downs of that short period of time, very short, where I was a dean over an MBA program in a really interesting, lovely school called Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio. I learned that bureaucracy is real. And if you're not prepared, and at the time, I don't think I was nearly savvy enough, maybe I never will be, be as an actual administrator. If you're not savvy enough, if you're not prepared, if you don't know what it is to go dance with that thing, it can kick your butt real fast, and it kicked mine. In fact, I was threatened with lawsuits pretty quickly by the professors union at that university for having the audacity to even propose possibilities as I was rethinking how an MBA program might be structured and facilitated. So on the one hand, I was trying to make the university a bigger footprint and more money and educated, find new future alums, which would be great. On the other hand, to do that required potentially some incentives for people to teach at these distant locations and odd hours and under different pressure, et cetera. And just for suggesting such things, I was threatened with lawsuits. That is one example among millions of a bureaucracy pushing back on me, and it was an eye-opener. Before I was an administrator, and since I have learned so much about innovation and how it's successful and how it fails. And so the point of the chapter and the stories in the chapter and today's quick rant is to really share a few of those things as an observer, a qualified, educated, interested, professional outsider, which is kind of what I am, and what I have learned about innovation over the last 20 plus years. I've learned a ton, but I thought I would start briefly in the 20 minutes or so we have left, very briefly with two stories. Actually, I'm only going to tell one story. I'm going to reference first, I'm going to reference another story, and I'm going to encourage all of you, like an old crusty professor wishes he could. I'm going to give you some homework and tell you that you need to go, and I'm going to give you the link in just a second here. I want you to go look up what's called the graphing calculator story. I'm going to drop it right here into a comment for those who are interested. You know, I don't even see it. For some reason, I can't post. It's probably because I'm live. So I'm going to go and tell Miss Cheryl, if you are listening, I'm going to drop the link to you and ask you to put that into the chat so anyone watching us now will have it. Doesn't matter. The point is, it's called the Graphing Calculator story, and it's a fascinating story. For a person who loves innovation, it was inspiring. It just excited me. I was very, very excited, and I've shared it with MBA students back in the day every time I taught a course on these topics, and I've been talking about it forever. Now I put it in a book that's coming up called Live Hard. Very exciting. It's about two crazy people who exemplified passion, hard work, and risk-taking to get something amazing done that needed to be done. Cheryl, thank you. She just posted the link to the story. Again, just giving you the tiniest version of this. Two people with passion creating a graphical piece of software that allowed all kinds of computations to be seen graphically long before visual data was a thing, long before people thought in terms of graphics in 3 dimensions. These jokers figured out how to do an interesting, original kind of tool that would allow all kinds of students around the world to do that. And they got canned. And after they got canned from Apple because where the places they were working had downsizing, they decided to keep going. Why? Because they loved what they were doing. And so they started sneaking back into the building. They waited for people to open the doors and ghosted right in and started working in offices that weren't occupied until they got discovered and kicked out, and then they snuck in again and found a lot of people who worked there were fascinated by the product they were working on and the guts they had, and started to help them on the down low so nobody would get in trouble. They got all kinds of help from experts everywhere and almost every facet of the organization, until finally their creation was done, debugged, and beautifully operative. And they found some other key allies who still worked there for real, who decided to, without permission, put that piece of software into a version of the Apple operating system. And it went out to millions of people around the world and became famous. That is a crude version of the story, but it's about passion and what's required for innovation. And I'm curious how you would feel when you read that about where you are and how much you're willing to invest in the things, the changes that you believe in, because we all say we believe in it, but how much are we willing to stand up and truly, truly invest? And these guys really showed what it means to invest. All right, so that's a crude approximation of a story. One more story, and then I'm going to give just a couple little bits of actual instruction and insights based on some observations over the years, but one more personal story. I've written about this in a blog. I've talked about it on stage a few times. I've never put it in a book before until Live Hard. I'm not going to tell you the name of the company. I think I mentioned it in the book, though. Anyhow, it's a large medical device company. And I got to tell you, It was an interesting situation. This happened about, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe. I was asked to give a speech to a group of professionals, mostly managers in a given division of this large firm. I show up. Before they put me in front of the group, I'm being held over here, so to speak, by a handler. That happens all over. This happened to be an HR person. This person is holding my hand, if you will, before they throw me up in front of the group. And I remember a conversation with this person loud and clear. I just said, because I'm pretty good at filling dead air, I said, so how's it going? Hey, you work in HR? Okay, so what do you got? What's you and your team? What are you up to? You know? And she was very happy to share. Hey, we're actually trying to, you talk about innovation a lot, Todd. We're trying to cut through some red tape. We're trying to streamline. And I said, well, I mean, great. Maybe be specific. What are you working on? She goes, well, actually, right now we're working on the HR policy book. They used to call it a policy book. Now it's just a place on a computer somewhere. But we're really trying to get rid of some policies and things that need clarification, some that need to go bye-bye. And I said, wonderful. She goes, yeah, actually, the last few days, we have been talking about grooming and attire. I said, oh, and immediately for me, red flags. Oh, danger, Will Robinson. Something is not right about this, because I knew that good intentions were going to be explained to me and they weren't necessarily going to be productive. And then she said, yeah, specifically, we've been spending a lot of time on footwear, specifically ladies' footwear. I said, oh yeah, knowing that all of these red flags were accurate, my spidey sense was on. She said, well, it turns out, yeah, we don't have clarity about appropriate footwear. It's been causing a problem. I said, a problem? She goes, well, I mean, not a problem. We had one person who, according to their manager, really did not dress appropriately with footwear in the office. And this manager brought that to our attention. And now we're trying to give them some guidance, which sounds like a good thing, right? Think with me now. Sounds like a good thing. We're going to try and give the guidance they asked for. And so now a team of HR pros are spending, what I learned was, hours debating what does or does not constitute appropriate female footwear. You can't make this up. I'm not making this up. Think about the costs of this policy. They did come up with a policy. It wasn't an argument because not everyone agreed, and there were pictures. I'm not kidding. Pictures involved that they pulled from the internet so that they could have reference pictures in their HR policy book for managers out in the field to reference. Think about the time and money involved, the cost of the salaries of all those people, benefits, etc. The cost of that policy was immense. Now, I ask you, was that a strategically important policy that's going to move this unit forward? Is that something when we look back in 5 years and say, hey, we kicked some butt? How did we do that? Is that the policy that we're going to reference as to why we're killing it the way we're killing it? No. But if we're not performing well, it might be an answer to the question, hey, how did we waste our time and do the wrong things? Here's the thing. Good people with good intentions make smart decisions that aren't nearly strategic enough for us all to care about all the time. One of the problems with bureaucracy is that we don't focus on the things that truly matter. Good intentions pave the road to, you've heard this before, right? We have to think about what matters. Now, what happened in this case is that I got thrown on stage in front of all these people and I'm telling a story, and I wasn't planning on talking about ladies' footwear, but I can't help it, because I like to talk and share honest truths and evoke more conversation from people in the audience. That's my job. Stir it up in a professional, positive, useful way. I'm a pot stirrer, I guess. Fine. So I'm in the middle of a story on stage. I just stopped and said, did you guys know that you have a real fixation here in this firm with ladies' footwear? And they all looked at me like I'm crazy, and I explained. That HR person I was talking to was in the room and looked very upset with me, by the way. I hope I didn't get that person in trouble. I never heard that I did, but I know that I created or started, by doing what I did, some conversations that needed to happen. We spend a ton of time at work. We have a finite amount of hours and energy. We need to focus on what matters. We love to talk about innovation. Let me tell you, we really have to learn how to take risks. That's a topic in many ways I've talked about, and I'm sure I will again. But we have to focus all of that on things that matter. And I don't care how egregious that one person's footwear choice might have been that led to this debacle of a story I just shared with you. It was not worth a team's worth of time and money to craft a new policy. So let me end this rant by saying, you know what? Sometimes the best answer for localized problems is localized solutions. Never, in fact, here's a great rule, never create a systemic answer to a localized problem. Think about that. Never create a system-wide solution for a local problem. Number one, it's got to be a thing that matters instead of just footwear, which you should fix in a conversation like this, and with clarity and politeness, etc. But like this, so that you can really have the difficult conversations on things that matter. Okay, as I'm thinking about today's streams, I realized there was kind of a cutting the red tape aspect of it, and then a personal version of it. I'm going to go through for the managers and the aspiring managers and the executives watching. I'm going to start with the more of the red tape approach and give you some observations. I'm going to do it in a different way than I usually do. I'm going to give you some quotes because I've been, as you know, if you follow me, I like to write quotes on occasion when I think it captures an idea that's useful because people find that useful. It helps them think and they get to share it. They're very shareable, and that helps other people think as well. So I'm going to mention just a few as I think back over 20 plus years of really trying to observe, help, consult, guide various teams in all kinds of contexts, all kinds of industries. Well, some ideas pop up as useful, and I put some of them into quotes. Here's one. Sometimes curiosity kills the cat. Innovation lesson. Ready? Have more than one cat. Now, that's not going to please the cat lovers listening to this, but it's a useful idea. And it's a reminder about products and how we get successful in product innovation. You don't go after one big thing, all your eggs in one basket. You always have a portfolio. You reduce risk just like you do in stock investing by having a portfolio of products and service innovations that you're going after. But let me go a little further. When you think about innovation, start thinking broadly now. This is a career advice for you. It's not just about products. It's not just about products and services. At a minimum, it's about products, services, processes, process innovation, huge, technologies, and business models. Business models, think about it. We used to sell albums and then iTunes came along. Business models change. We used to sell a lot of things for a big price. Then we started renting them in a million different industries in the last 5 years. That's a business model change. Products, services, processes, technologies, business model. These are all targets for innovation. I want you to start thinking broadly about them, not just products and services. You need to be operating on multiple fronts. That's why I make the joke about multiple cats for sure. Here's another one. These two are actually quite related. Scarce resources curtail innovation only for the lazy and unimaginative. Scarce resources curtail innovation only for the lazy and unimaginative. I mean that because there's a false idea that great budgets basically mean you can innovate more. Not true. Here's a very related flip side idea. Great resources don't guarantee innovation. They only guarantee great spending. One more time, great resources don't guarantee innovation. They only guarantee great spending. So those two very related notions. And if I haven't said this, by the way, and my fast pace is throwing you off, don't forget these live streams always become videos that you can watch both on LinkedIn and on YouTube when we're done. I think that's really, those two related ideas are very, very important. And what I've learned as an active participant and an expert observer for years now is that money's not the answer to innovation. It sometimes plays a very important role, but it's not the end all be all. What matters more than anything are two things, imagination and problem solving skills. If you got both of those, one's more technical, one's fuel for the other. The imagination is fuel for a good problem solving process. When you have those in place, it's amazing how much you can figure out that's possible and how to execute on it, even if you don't have massive, massive resources. Let me give you one more before I go to a personal take on this topic for you. Rule breakers start companies. Rule makers run them. Rule followers do the work. I hope that doesn't sound crude. It's supposed to be a little true and a little funny. Let me say that one more time. Rule breakers start companies. Rule makers run them. Rule followers do the work. So what do I take away from this? I wrote this. I think it's useful. I think it reflects reality. But what do you do with this? Well, you have to remember, just like products and services, where you've got to have that portfolio, you've got to have multiple fronts of innovation and change you're working on, processes, business models, product services, not just one egg in one basket. The same goes for the leadership team that you're going to build, or for the diversity of team if you're just a manager of a single team that you're going to build. You want that portfolio. You really do. You don't want just the rule followers and the rule makers to put it that way. If it's rule breakers that start the companies, you want a minority of that portfolio to be, square pegs, round holes, people who are rule breakers. You don't just take safe choices and let them populate, let them dominate a management team. Will there be consternation, gnashing of teeth, and possible conflict associated with knowingly putting someone who's a little bit not on brand, not fitting the profile into your leadership structure? Yes, there's good and bad that comes from it, and you know how to manage it. The answer is more good than bad. That's very important. If you know how to manage it, more good than bad will come of that. You definitely want some rule breakers. Too many complete mavericks and you will have chaos. You want great rule followers to dominate your leadership structure, but they better appreciate the need to question, stretch, and occasionally break a rule, and they better have a nice tidy minority of the peers around them in the leadership structure who get that and are willing to lead the call when necessary, to flout the status quo and say, okay, it's time for that rule to go. This must change. This will pass. I love that. They're not always popular. It's not always the best career choice. But you know what? I can tell you it's essential. Change is inevitable, and the leadership team overall that harnesses the ability to do that will be the most successful. All right, I'm going to give you 2 ideas before I have to sign off in just a few minutes. 2 ideas on a more personal level that will help you cut red tape effectively and be a change agent effectively in your career. How are we doing on time? These are going to be short. You ready? The first one is that if you're going to propose change and it's going to require cutting red tape, you show up with friends. You do not do this solo. You show up ready to articulate how it helps multiple people, multiple agendas, not just yours. You show up knowing how to align what you're selling with goals, objectives, strategies, values, etc. at the top of the organization so that they'll have less reason to object to what you are suggesting. Last but not least, you show up before you advocate, willing to sign up to do the work that is implied in the changes that you are advocating. Otherwise, what are you doing? Suggesting others take care of these things that should be done? No, you better be in the front of the line to help get the work done or people won't take you serious. That is honest advice from observation over the last 20 years. One more. Some people do say, hey, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. You ever seen people say that? I love that. But I'd like to give you a little rejoinder, a little extra. Hey, it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for an apology. Yes, but you have to do it rarely instead of commonly. Okay, rarely instead of often. And it's easier when you're asking for forgiveness to do so as a 2-person, 3-person, 10-person team. A team is cut a little more slack, taken a little more seriously than an individual. That's almost always true, which is why innovation is a team sport. And the more colleagues you build on the side of whatever issue it is you're trying to go attack, the more successful you will be. Woo! Caffeine's been good to me today. I hope you learned something. If you have questions, I got to tell you, I had a couple right here I was supposed to get to that I did not. That's the first time I've done that in a while. My apologies, but I'm going to get online in the comments once this video is posted, and I'm going to answer these questions for you. If you want to go ahead and post a question, do so. If you'd like to send me a private note and ask a question, please do so. I hope you're getting jacked up about the holidays. I wish it was as stress-free as it probably should be for a lot of us. I know it can be stressful. So reach out if you need to talk to me or someone, doesn't have to be me, and get it off your chest. Whatever it is that's causing you all that stress, that would probably be smart and benefit everyone around you as well. If you've not been over to the website for a while, drdoit.com, check it out. Please sign up for the newsletter so you can be first to hear about all the things that are going on, not to mention special offers for all kinds of stuff, including possibly this little book that's coming out this month, 27th, at Amazon, called Live Hard. I hope you'll check it out. It's a pleasure to be with you as always. I will see you next time. Bye.